currently like in a level, and granted, I'm frustrated by how I'm at a Ferris wheel with some sniper dude that I can't like get to a helicopter in time, but I'll beat it.
Right.
And it's the kind of thing that I'm like energized to go back and figure out how am I going to get through this. So I think that there's some middle ground in there.
Number 3.
Let's go to the next one here. QuickTime events. We could go back and we could argue
what
the
does that
history
mean?
of QuickTime.
What does that mean?
QuickTime events is,
Really quick.
It's like you're watching a movie and you see an action. It's like, press X now.
Okay.
And they press X and your guy does
It's a way to
flip.
keep
So
you
it's like
interested while the
time-independent
cutscene's going
events.
on.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
I just want to, like, as a gamer, here's my frustration with QuickTime events. I actually love them, even back to, like, the days of Shenmue. Shenmue sort of glorified the QuickTime events, made them really fucking awesome, and they were easy to do. My biggest problem with QuickTime events is that I feel like I'm almost focusing too much on what button I have to press versus watching, like, the beauty that's being done. And Heavenly Sword is an example.
Heavenly Sword did it right, though, I think. They kind of included it in the action.
Even God of War, though.
Story.
God of War, it'd be like, I'm more like focusing in the area where I know, like, the triangle's going to pop up versus like going, wow, that was fucking sweet that he, jabbed his knife into his eye and swung around and then, like...
with the Colossus, yeah.
Right. So that's my biggest complaint is that I like it, but at the same token, I feel like I'm not really appreciating what they gave to me and what they want me to see because I'm too focused on, okay, what, circle next,
Yeah, I think that's game design limitations, though, right? Because let's say Call of Duty 3, where the guy would like jump up on your screen, you had to like smash like the left and right trigger kind of stuff. Like, is that going too far? You can go to like a great example of going really to the right would be like Fahrenheit 9/11 or Indigo Prophecy. They ended up naming it at the end.
Right,
where you had to like always do like Simon Says missions to get anything done.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately it's poor design. Is poor design. Whether or not it's surrounding like a timing-oriented thing or not. I mean, what are you going to bitch at like Guitar Hero because you have to hit the right button at the right time? I mean, where are you drawing the line?
Remember, people want the easy fret button.
Yeah, exactly.
Like hold it down,
one fret button. Like that's what my grandma wants.
You just wiggle the whammy bar.
Yeah. That's what you have a friend
Get the
come
focus
over.
group ready for that, bitches.
So I think that basically the complaint as to intrusive design is a valid one and something that developers need to look at. But as far as like calling out one button, like quick reaction, like reflex-oriented stuff, like maybe the sequence was too hard and you got frustrated and now you're bitching about it. But as a mechanic, I mean, they're talking out of both sides of the mouth. We want more mini games. I hate these little things.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
It's why it's a mini game. Like if I'm going to go build a whole nother game, like then it's no longer a mini game. You put that on Xbox Live and call it something else.
Right. Robert, do you have any thoughts on QuickTime?
I agree with you. I think that I would actually just rather sit there and take the story. And I think Heavenly Sword actually did it right, as in it had these great cinematics, and then the QuickTime events were actually just transitions from your main action to another main action. Like for instance, in the demo, if people have only played the demo, when you hit the rope. Like, really, you're fighting, and then you go and hit the rope, and then that's a QuickTime event. Not necessarily the story or interaction. Like, kind of, I don't mind them, but I don't like them when they're abused.
For the record, I think Heavenly Sword has done the worst QuickTime events in the last 6 months, personally. But that's just me. I mean,
I will say, it wasn't bad because I didn't notice it, and it didn't bother me.
Okay.
So...
let's go on to number 4. We got 2 more on this list. Pay to unlock, and maybe you could kind of give us a little bit.
And that has more to do with the publishers, doesn't it, than the
on this. So like they made mention of like the Godfather for the 360 apparently having to actually pay to unlock certain cheats to the game, and.
That's low, dude.
We made a little parody video last year that kind of sort of touched this. Is like, oh yeah, there's a secret unlock code, but you can also buy it on Xbox Live for $5. And the whole maybe it's even more like microtransactions, which I personally feel are fantastic. But there are some games, maybe some publishers, maybe some developers that might be taking advantage of that from the perspective of an industry insider. Pay to unlock. What do you think about this?
Well, there's a lot of things that we don't have control over. The prices are set by Microsoft for anything online. So if you have DLC that you're building, they get to decide how much it's released for. And I think you saw that with the horse in Oblivion. Like they didn't actually set the price of it, and everybody's outraged. How can it be that expensive?
You mean the maker of the game has no control over how much they make?
I don't know if no control is the right word because it's always like a business sort of like relationship, but it's definitely they set it because they're maintaining the integrity of marketplace.
Right.
Right. You can't have, because otherwise it's going to turn into bidding wars, and
right.
EA will start pumping stuff out for free, and other people can't do that, and so it's not a fair market for the end users. Oh, or maybe we'll start price gouging you, and you'll be grateful that they're setting the prices on that. But I think that it's a perfect situation where if you want to extend, you knew what you bought in the box.
Right.
And you bought it on that console, right? And so you know what you got. Now, anything that happens outside of that box and is extra content, well, that's up to you to get. If you require external content to beat the game, that's bullshit.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
But you'll see it all the time right now with Bungie. Like, you can pay to get the maps now, or you can be frugal and wait X amount of months, and then you're going to get them for free.
Right.
And I think that that's a very fair thing.
I think that is too.
Well. But whether or not you have something on one version, like I think that's the exact case used with Godfather, that on the PS2 version you got the shit for free. And now you got to pay for it. Well, that's definitely like a pretty bold move. However, you chose. I mean, who doesn't still own a PS2? There's like 120 million of them in the U.S. Like, you made the choice to do that. That's up to the end user.
In defense of Microsoft too, they incur costs running the service. The bandwidth. I mean, so like there has to be some kickback, which I understand. Someone could be like, "Yo, we got this 1 gig add-on and we want to give it away for free." Well,
And you can't have a lot for size. I mean, they
right,
the size.
right.
But this is the one point in the article where I'd say I'm neutral. Right? I can see both sides of it.
I could see this. So. This one I'm interested in hearing your thought on.
How can you dock the review score for it? DLC happens afterwards.
I know. I'm not sure how you can do that, but and number 5 is because you can. And I think the because you can argument is like sort of geared and generated towards one specific console, or maybe 2, considering that a lot of 6-axis controls have been tacked on because you can.
I don't think it's happened as much, but
I think that we've definitely seen some Wii titles that have come out because you can. Sort of like, oh, they've got this conventional control scheme. Let's go ahead and do this because we can. I think that sometimes it really works in the industry, and in other times it just doesn't. But you mentioned sort of like with the QuickTime events that a lot of time it just comes down to the gameplay, to the game design. And for this, it sort of seems like the same thing. It's like,
that's why you see Nintendo do such a great job with the Wii stuff, because they're only making it for one platform, right? Whereas when you look at other games that are being ported, like it is an add-on. I mean, you can say it's not, but it is, because you didn't have it in the other pieces, and you can't penalize the other consoles for that. I think that the tilt controller is a great example. Like in Time Shift, if you actually move with the controller, you can melee, right?
That's cool.
And so you don't have to do it, and you can definitely turn it off and everything else, but you are required by Sony to support the tilt functionality as one of the heavily suggested things that they want for you to do. So as a developer, you're being asked to do it, otherwise you don't get to make the game for that platform. So it's really something that publishers or the first parties putting pressure on you for, right? It's not a mandate, but it's like, one of those like, hey, you're gonna
hook it up,
wink, make it work kind of thing. And I think that with the Wii controller, from my own personal experience of looking into like making Wii games, if we have a command in the game where you have to go like this 3 times, like how do I put that in a manual? Like, how do I like articulate, extend your hand forward and circle it around 3 times or whatever? Like, it's kind of like limiting of design as well, because although it's very natural for bowling, baseball, whatever else, like it's very intuitive to just think about swing it, right? You're using words that are like ingrained in people's like culture and upbringing versus, some of the more obscure movements that might be very intuitive. It's kind of a risky business. And this is something that I don't quite agree with them as much on. I mean, because you can be interpreted anyways. But I look from my own personal experience of just coming out of Time Shift. Ziff slammed us, right, with Time Shift. They were like, it's a 5 out of 10. Now, if you know Ziff, you know that 5 out of 10 means it's an average to good game. Right. Well, first off, that's bullshit, right? If I got a 5 out of 10 when I was in like grade school, like that meant I got an F.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So if you're going to call me an average game, give me a C or a B minus or something like that, like the rest of the known world uses. And so one of the arguments that I believe that the Ziff guys rely on, and I cannot speak for them, is that the rest of the world doesn't use, the grading system the same as US. Well, first off, you're a US publication, and second off, yeah, the rest of the world does. That's how I can go to college in Germany and still transfer credits to the U.S. Like, it still works over. But I think that ultimately my personal like slant at the article that's affecting me today The first thing, what was the first thing on the list? Save points?
Yes.
No,
save points.
Cutscenes.
Cutscenes, non-skippable cutscenes. You can in Time Shift. So did you slam the game based on that? The second thing is save points. We have checkpoints and save anywhere. And we have health that regenerates. So did you slam us based on that? What's the third thing?
Third one was...
QuickTime Events.
QuickTime Events. We added one button time control so that you don't have to have the timing things of like being jammed into a situation of needing time reverse and not having it, right?
Right.
Something they slammed us for. And then the fourth thing is...
Pay to unlock.
Yeah, you don't do that in the game. We give you all the shit up front, and right now I'm trying to fight to get DLC out there for as cheap as possible, if not free, because I think that, that's what happens on PCs.
Right.
On PCs for years with the previous games I've done, like, you got the shit for free because you were a fan and hung on for 6 months afterwards. And the last thing is...
Because you can.
Because you can. First off, I don't know what that means, but secondly,
I don't know what it means either.
It's Melee. So we didn't like do something stupid with it. You can do it if you want to. It feels intuitive, like, oh, fuck you, get away from me, and I can still push buttons, or I can hit the melee button, right? And it's the kind of thing that felt natural. We had, jerked around with like lean, you could lean, and then we're like, why would you lean if you could just stop time and go around the corner and shoot the fool in the head? Oh, yeah, maybe we don't need lean. Reload. And then I was like playing on the couch, like laying down, and I was accidentally reloading in the middle of a firefight, and I'm like, yeah, we got to take out that reload.
Dude, I feel you right there.
That's not going to work out. So by their own argument, they're saying these are things that you're going to slam a game for. Developers,
so you just started with a 10 out of 10
saying,
according to their 5 criteria.
But yeah, you still hit us. Right. Like you're not following your own logic. I think that there are several things you can hit a game for. I think that automatically, and this is my own personal belief, in the modern games, next-gen environment, if you don't have multiplayer in your game, there should be no way that you get over a 9.5. Right? I'd go further.
Thank you.
Over a 9, brother. Come on.
I'd go further just because of the sheer amount of manpower we put behind multiplayer.
Multiplayer is
not
so
done by one
hard.
dude. Like, you got a whole
net
team.
code, all that shit.
Right.
You're doing net code, you're doing bandwidth, you're doing latency. Right now with Time Shift, we don't do a client-server model. We do client-server and peer-to-peer to get the bandwidth down so that you can sit here and play against guys in Germany and actually have a good ping and a reliable experience. I mean, we put hours of influence into this stuff. And then, you can put out a game that doesn't have it. It's essentially a half game. And it gets 100 or a 98 or a 97.
And I know that you've got a game in mind. I know that you've got a game in mind when you're saying that. And I know it's on my mind too, and I'll say it for you. It's got to be BioShock. Because BioShock, when the scores came out, I was seriously on the floor having fits that people were giving it a 10. And the game is fucking great, don't get me wrong, but that was one of the major reasons.
I'm definitely suspicious of that. And I don't want to be taken wrong either. I think BioShock's a great game. And I can tell you that because you can look at my gamer profile. I played it. I enjoyed it. I had fights internally about it because people were hating on it. I'm like, no, look at what they're doing here with the lighting system, with this. Like, I think it's a great game, and I definitely think it's capable of a 9 to a 9.5.
Absolutely.
But you're going to give it a 98 or 100? Like, what are you doing? I played the game before anyways with System Shock 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's the same, I don't think you can go that far with some of the credentials that they're throwing these ways. And I think you look right now, just jump online, go to Game Rankings. You'll see a shitload of 9s and aboves and a lot of 7s and belows. And you'll find like 4 games in the 8 mark. Like, what happened to the 8 range? I mean, the 8 range used to be where everybody lived, and a couple got bumped up to 9s, and a few of them got down to 7s.
They used to be scared of 10s. It used to be like you never saw 10s. And then all of a sudden this year, it's like nothing but 10s, and they all came early. And
I challenge somebody to put together a list of, over the years, what games got. I'll put that out. Like, I will go and stand behind that data and fire it off at the top levels of showing, look, in the years of PC Gamer and the years of these established publications from IGN to GameSpy to UGO to whoever else you want to put on the list, right? You've only given out so many 9 and above, and now you just like threw them out the door. I'm going after your journalistic integrity. Granted, games are better, but come on, you can't just say that from last year to this year there's like a right up the ladder.
And I feel like BioShock came at an awkward time too, because as soon as everyone started releasing 10s, then you had Halo 3 coming out, then you had Call of Duty 4 coming out, then you had all these PS3 games coming out. I really think that the entire video game industry with these 10s that they were throwing out for BioShock basically ruined the rest of the year. Because suddenly it was like, well, wait a second, you gave BioShock a 10, but this game, which is loaded with multiplayer, has better graphics, has more gameplay mechanics, you're giving an 8.5 or a 9. And it really seemed like a skewed a lot of things. And so then it was kind of suddenly like, oh, 10, 10. Throw out a 9.9 here, you know. And
use a bell curve. I mean, look at your own scale. Look at your own scale. And there are, like, I don't want to lump everybody together. There are some sites out there that are fair and straight shooters and stuff. Hell, even within a company, there are particular editors that I know by name, I like, not because they treat my games well. In fact, most of the editors that I respect the most are guys who don't treat the game well. If somebody goes out there and gives Time Shift a 9.5, I'm going to think that somebody like fed you something on the side.
Right.
Right? Like, I do not think that Time Shift, a game that I've lived 4 years on, I spent over 6 months of my life in Russia. I froze negative 37 degree winters.
I drank vodka.
But if you're going to go out there and give the game a 9.5, you're smoking something. Seriously. So I know fairly what the game should deserve, and I fully feel that Time Shift is a game that can go out there, and if somebody was to give it an 8, I'd go, okay. An 8, yeah. I can see how you got that. I'm going to read what you wrote, but right now I'm reading stuff, and I'm not just talking about Time Shift. I'm talking about a whole slew of games out there.
Yeah.
If you read, and apparently most people don't seem to, but if you read what they write, and then you look at the score, I'm like, these don't even correlate.
Right.
You're totally hyping the game more than the score you gave it, or you dogged the game for all these features, and then you gave it a high score. Like, what's going on there? Right. So I think that, you know, a call out to anybody who's out there with some data and some spare time to go into game rankings. Let's get some data together. Let's make a real argument that Kotaku and everybody could run with. And to the guys that are out there running the sites, I'm not slamming editors, right? I talk to them all the time when I see them, and I'm always, you know, friendly with what they are. In fact, the guys that I don't like, I even like sit down and talk with them about how I don't like what they're doing and stuff. But I think we need to look at what are we doing as a benchmark? What are we setting? What's going to happen next year now that games have this, like, what are you going to do with Assassin's Creed 2 when it's pumped out in a year to have, you know, another hit in the timeline, or Call of Duty 5, or, you know, all these games that you know there's going to be a sequel for. Of course. Are they going to hit as high, or are they going to be slammed as a retaliation act upon this?
Right. Well, all interesting thoughts, and of course, the ongoing journalistic integrity debate will never, I don't think, ever reach a conclusion. But you know, it's been great chatting with you about Kyle, and we're actually way over on time. So you know, we apologize if you've got anything that you need to run off to. But hopefully, the viewers back home have appreciated the little extended show that we brought you. But Kyle, I hate to wrap it up. I feel like we could probably sit here for another 40 minutes, but we need to. So let's begin the wrap. I do want to thank Mr. World Famous Robert Suma for keeping the Yahoos in check. Thank you.
They were very good today. I didn't have to ban anybody.
Good. Nice, nice.
We just kick them. We don't ban them.
Hogan Cameron Carter over on production.
Oh, everybody loved Kyle, by the way.
What?
Everybody loved Kyle.
My image was frozen. That was me being frozen.
So, and of course, Kyle Peschel. Kyle, it's been our honor. You did bring in a few copies of Time Shift. We're going to make sure that we give those away
on the PS3, no doubt.
Fun
fools.
little contest that we'll do on epilepticgaming.com. But it really has been our pleasure, dude.
Thank you.
We know now that you're working on Brutal Legend, so we're going to be calling you up here pretty soon to you know.
BrutalLegend.com. Let's get those plugs in there.
There you go. BrutalLegend.com. Check it out, guys. And Kyle, again, thank you so much. Guys, thank you for all your questions that you submitted, and thanks for all the callers that called in. I'm the world's loudest human, DJ Wheat, and we will see you next week for week 142 on Epileptic Gaming. Guys, have a great weekend. Kyle, thanks again one more time, and peace. We'll see you guys next week.